Hello and welcome back to the Digital Marketing Podcast. My name is Kieran Rogers.
I'm Louise Crossley.
And I'm Daniel Rolls.
And today we are talking about the future of social media.
It's all going to stop. That's it. That's the end of.
I just wish it would.
I know you do. I should say, we're going to talk about the future of social media, where it's going, how it's fragmenting, changing, all those kind of things. Kieran had a rant, I think is a fair word.
Bit of an
A
outburst.
sweary, and a meltdown is maybe a better
Teddy's
word.
out of pram.
Yeah. It was, and let's explore that first. Let's let you get it off your chest without swearing, because the editing team don't really want to have to do that. You don't like social media.
I'm just tired of it.
Which is amazing for a digital marketer.
I know, but it just, honestly, I look at how most brands do social media and I just think...
And is it the fact it's done badly then?
Yeah. I just think, why on earth would you think I'd be interested in this dross?
So tell me the story then about, you just did the B2B we were looking at.
Yeah, so like B2B.
So I made the comment, which is quite a controversial one.
Yeah.
I love LinkedIn.
Yeah.
People are like, it's just people trying to sell you stuff and sales. Do you know what? My experience of it is not that.
So there are good things about LinkedIn, granted. And
I spend more time on LinkedIn than on Facebook.
I spend more time on LinkedIn than pretty much anything else. Anything else, like Instagram or anything.
I told you, Louise. We knew it, didn't we?
Yeah, right.
We knew it. Yeah. So, like, there are good things about LinkedIn, like the networking and the catching up with actual people that you know, and actually people that you are interested in. Like that. That's very
It's an
strong.
actual network, and I think that's maybe for me. Like, I'm connected to a lot of people, but I have a network of people I genuinely like. If they get a promotion, I'm like, good for you, well done.
Yeah,
right?
So,
and I care.
and that's good because that's real. I suppose what I dislike is the never-ending trotting out of 3-4 posts a week because we've got to say something, and invariably they are done awfully. Invariably they've been written once and not reworked ever.
Right.
So there's no sense of any clear, like, if this is for you, what's in it for you?
Well, that's the point you were making.
That's missing.
That resonated. Like, what's in it for me?
Yeah.
Cut to the chase.
Cut to the chase. Get to what I'm busy. You know, just give me the value. Like, serve it up on a platter so that I can eat it in bite-sized chunks. And no one does that. And also, like, just do less but do it better. You know, don't give me 15 posts about blah blah blah. Who gives a monkeys?
Okay. Well done.
Yeah. You know, just do one thing and do it well, and do it in a bit more of a real way. You see, the whole thing was supposed to be, you know, the whole Web 2.0 revolution, which was what, like 2010, 2012, was that, oh my gosh, we've got these new social tools now and we can communicate one-on-one at scale. No one's doing that. No one's doing that. It's just one size all massive broadcast vomit that just spews into my feed day after day. Please, like, enough.
Right, I'll give you an example. This is like a history lesson, right? I remember being at a conference and Craig Hanna, who was at eConsultancy at the time, hi Craig, hope you're very well, was telling us about social media. Yeah. And I think it was Twitter at the time he was talking about, right? So we've got Facebook, we've got Twitter. And he was explaining what the point in it was. And the whole audience, Craig was a great presenter. About 10 minutes in, was like, all right, I'm going to start again. Right, well, you're not getting it, are you? And everyone was like, what's the point, right? And then he went, well, because you can do this. And he was completely right. It just people weren't there yet in terms of understanding it. And then people started to get it and it started to work. And then we said, oh, as a business, this could be good. I can shout stuff at you and you might buy my things. And then we started broadcasting a little bit as well. I mean, the problem is we work out what does work. And then someone will go, my course is just normally $499. You can get it tonight for $4.99 to find out the ideal LinkedIn post. And everyone's like, wow, I'll give that a go. And it might be right, the content. It might be, if you do it like this, it'll work. Yeah. But the problem is it will work for a bit. Yeah. Classic, my dislike of LinkedIn. I was completely shocked. Exclamation mark, explosion emoji, right? And then 2 lines of line space they've left. So you've got to scroll down to read more. Well, you've just caught my attention. I want to read more. But this is clickbait, right? And it's like, oh, you did this. Great. All right, that wasn't as interesting as I hoped. Now, if it's genuinely interesting, it's not clickbait. That would be my differentiation, right? Yeah. Clickbait is you think you're going to get something and you don't get what you want. 5 shocking celebrity moments you won't believe, number 4. And then there is no number 4 on there anywhere that looked like the picture that I saw that I wanted to see. Okay.
People on LinkedIn at the moment, especially, they do love to build up this whole story arc. And it is like just...
I know, but it's normally brilliant.
Being in a room with a bunch of, like, attention deficit toddlers, you know, it's like, oh, take notice of me. It's like, oh, for goodness sake. And this is what I hate about it. And like, because it's so disingenuous, it's so fake. And they're all playing this game to get more likes so they can like ride the algorithm and achieve success. And it's like,
Well-
no, wrong game entirely. We're supposed to be great communicators for a start. We're supposed to be marketers, right? We're supposed to be able to communicate effectively. And actually, with the content that's being pushed out to game, I just feel it's being done really badly.
Well, do you think this is the algorithm piece, right? Like the algorithm encourages bad behavior because the algorithm is there to generate advertising sales, right? So
Everyone's fighting to get
yeah, and everyone's kind of like, we do it. We do latest updates on the algorithm. This is how you game the algorithm. Oh, we don't like people gaming the algorithm. Slightly hypocritical.
No, I don't mind people gaming the algorithm, but do it in an interesting,
that's
novel way, I suppose, and do it in a way that doesn't demand everybody's attention. This is the problem. Everything can't be interesting to everybody at a mass scale. There are niches.
Well, what I'm really interested, I went to a recent talk about community building, and they said your community needs to be niche. And they go, right, so this one person had built a community for companies that had a marketing team of one. And then I kind of went, well, yeah, but that's that audience. But what about if you did like up to 3? They went, no, this is the problem. You're the problem. And I was like, oh, this is a bit harsh. And basically, the point was that if you suddenly go, well, anyone that's got a marketing team of 1, or maybe 2, or maybe 3, you're not speaking to a very niche community. You're speaking to a big, broad range of companies because I want the reach. Right? So it kind of, okay, that's a fair point. So how do I speak to that specific group? Because that's where I've got opportunity traction. And I think that we miss that a little bit of actually what's in it for you, but it's got to be a little bit more specific to a particular audience. Even if I do a number of posts and I'm only expecting them to appeal to a certain segment of my audience, I can kind of accept that the rest might ignore it.
I think there's also a problem with engagement pods, which are being used to push this rather lackluster content a lot further. And I really wish the networks would like.
So explain this because people won't be familiar.
Okay, so an engagement pod, like if I could set up a business, right, and I could persuade people to join my community of engagers, and we would all agree to like and share and promote each other's content, right, on a regular basis. And actually,
it's like circular link building.
Yeah, it kind of is, but within the social algorithm, right? So you're trying to game the system, and actually there are some really big ones on LinkedIn. Just Google like LinkedIn engagement pods, and you'll find these communities. And I think again, this is. You're building your fame on a lie. This is as bad as buying, fake Instagram followers to try and dupe brands into sponsoring you and sending you lots of freebies.
But then they'll be selling courses on how to increase your LinkedIn engagement.
Yeah, the best way of making money online is selling courses how to make money online. I mean, this has been a thing for a long time, right? The problem is what that algorithm is trying to do is trying to simulate the fact that if I've got a load of people that really are my advocates and they like my stuff and share my stuff, that must be a good thing. And that's the problem, isn't it? Right? So look, let's get specific about some platforms.
Yeah. But thanks for the rant. I feel a lot better.
A
little bit weak and shaky now, but I feel
constructive.
Better. Yeah.
We'll get you some sugar. X or Twitter, or as the BBC knows it now, X, formerly known as Twitter. I mean, they're using up a lot of words in a lot of articles doing this. X, formerly known as Twitter.
Paid per word, though, right?
Yeah, right. Then maybe that's it. Okay. So the reality is, what's happened? Well, I maybe have a different attitude to a lot of people. Elon Musk bought Twitter for 44 billion. If I get any of these numbers wrong, then I apologize. 44 billion. And there's just been an evaluation online, and everyone with great glee is saying, it's more than halved in value. Based on what the share options for the staff are now worth, it's now worth 19 billion. There are a lot of different ways of valuing a brand, first of all. That may or may not be correct. The change from Twitter to X was done, in my opinion, in the most Wild West rebrand I've ever seen in my life. Of like, just turn around, got someone random to just do a logo. Nothing else was rebranded X. Everything still says Twitter everywhere. There's still blue birds on all the help documentation.
The opposite to everything you're taught to do.
To do in a brand as well. And now no one's calling it X. They're calling it Twitter still most of the time as well. Then I think Elon Musk or someone else came out and just put some weird colorization and did an effect on the logo. And everyone was like, what? It's just changing it again. I think it's reflective of two things. You could look at this two ways. You can either say this is petulant and childish, and it's been done in a whimsical and not thought out way, or someone is just disrupting things. And Lots of people have opinions on Elon Musk, and I'm not going to get into it from that point of view. What I would say is that actually, if I look at the amount of engagement on X, as we'll call it, the user base has gone down, but the engagement doesn't seem to have done. Okay, so there are loads of people that are using Twitter in the past that have stopped using it. I know that. Look at my own account. I've got like 8 or whatever thousand followers on there, and it's really, really declined in reach. Like I used to post something and it would get in front of a couple of thousand people at any given time. The time of day had a big impact. Now I post anything, that audience, 200 or 300 people see it. Okay, I can improve that by doing certain things, but the engagement percentages are up, like 5 to 10%. I'm probably getting now easy, right? So there's an argument, actually, a load of people aren't using it, but those accounts need to go because the algorithm is punishing things because you go, we've got 8,000 followers, only like 500 people engaging with you. Therefore, you're probably not doing a great job. Elon Musk comes out and goes, we're going to start charging for accounts.
Which I love, by the way.
Right. So would you be more inclined to use it?
Much more. Because
it would get rid of the bot accounts.
Even if it was like only $1 a year, right? That would get rid of the bot accounts, of which
a lot
there
of
are.
them. I mean, you have to make it enough that it's not profitable to have those bot accounts.
How much are they planning to charge?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
they're experimenting in New Zealand and somewhere else with this feature.
Well, the Facebook thing, right? So you had a little bit of a thing about charging for Facebook. So reflect on that, and then we can reflect.
Yeah. So I think this was an announcement by Facebook this month of October, and they were saying that they're going to be launching an ad-free subscription for Facebook users in Europe. And they were looking at like I think it was around $12.99.
$12.99 for mobile.
€12. No, that was in euros.
Or 10 for desktop.
Yeah.
Sorry, euros. You're right.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that's navigating the complex targeting and ad like restrictions maybe within Europe.
Well, it means it's easier, I guess, from a privacy point of view. But also, what it means is what you pointed out. That's how much
they value
at least
an account.
Yeah, because if they're making way more than that from advertising for each person, they wouldn't be able to make that work economically.
Yeah, there was a stat knocking around years ago that if you had a Facebook account, as a mean average, a Facebook account was worth, like I think it was like $180 a year.
Yeah, it was.
Which, shocked most people. It's like, wow. But that's the power of knowing who you're connected to and what you like. That can then be sold to advertisers like us, right?
Yeah, but I don't get the impression that's what the Twitter thing was about. It wasn't about what would the equivalent event. It's about actually you're still going to get ads. You're going to pay for it. You're still going to get ads, but it's about cutting out bot accounts and so on.
Which would be a brilliant thing.
Yeah.
We use keywords everywhere, which gives you a count on the average number of searches from Google in any given kind of month. And if you use that tool and Google Twitter follower, by Twitter followers, by Instagram followers, by Facebook
it's hundreds
followers.
of thousands a month.
And there are plenty of companies prepared to do that. And they'll give it 100% real. Yeah, no, I don't believe that for a second. They're bot accounts. And they're a massive problem because actually if I've got enough of these, I can sway political debates. And that's happening time and time again.
Yeah, there's evidence
where really niche focused concepts are becoming mainstream media things. Why? Because apparently loads of people are banging on about on Twitter, but are those people real? Well, who knows? Or or insert any other network. I'm not particularly blaming Twitter, but people do, and particularly politicians and decision makers do use these systems as a bit of a barometer. So if I can game that, I can actually sway public debate, sway public opinion, and do all sorts of weird and wonderful things.
Great bugbear for low quality news production, right? So something will happen in the world.
Oh, I know. And then they'll start quoting what people have said on Twitter. It's like, what the hell?
I mean, that's even worse than going up to someone on the street, right? Because invariably you'll go up to someone and there'll be someone that's pretty bonkers will tell you something completely offensive or off the charts.
That's me.
Yeah, right, exactly, right? Yeah. But actually they're going, somebody said this on Twitter and something. And it's just like, of what value is this? Okay, so anyway, lazy journalism. Yeah. Something that Elon Musk came out and said today in the news is that X will replace banks in 2024.
Great.
Bold statement.
Yeah.
This is coming from something he's been alluding to for a while. If you are familiar with WeChat being the biggest social media platform inside China, but is also glowing a little bit globally in various countries as well. WeChat has payment process. You can scan QR codes, you can pay for things, but it's got apps within it. So you've got this one kind of master app where you have most of your social stuff going on, and then you can install things in it and so on. So apps within apps kind of thing, an app store for an app. it seems to me that's the vision for X. It's going to do lots of different things.
I mean, that was the whole meaning behind him changing the name to X, is that he wanted it to be an everything app.
That's
and
it.
that was the direction.
That's it. I think it's a shame in a way because Twitter was the real-time app. It's like if you wanted real-time news, you wanted to find out real-time what was happening, that's where you went. And the algorithm gradually eroded that because you got everything else prioritized in it. It's an interesting, but I think that's the direction it's kind of going in. We should then bring in the conversation about Meta's, I'm not going to say version of Twitter, but it's pretty much what it was, Threads, right? The big news with Threads was everyone went through and signed up, and they were really clever at taking their Meta user base, Instagram users and Facebook users, and going, here's your Threads account, right? And even the stuff they put this little cookie, this little kind of Easter egg in thing, sorry, hidden away, where you could go to something, there was a ticket, you could get your secret ticket, and it would give you out. You showed me this.
Yeah.
My interpretation of what's happened in Threads is that some people have really adopted it, but the majority of people went on and then realized it's yet another platform to have to speak on. And the conversations are all repeats of exactly what people have been saying in X.
Yeah. I think the momentum that they originally got when they launched, they've not been able to keep that up, and it's just...
No, I mean, all the user numbers would show, and they've been quite honest about that. And even Mark Zuckerberg came out and said, yeah, if you've got this many people starting, you're not going to maintain that over any period of time as well. So I think it's kind of pootling along, but it doesn't really seem like it's got the traction it needs to get unless it finds its particular niche, which is people that don't like Elon Musk. Seems to be its niche kind of thing at the moment. The other thing is Facebook is a fascinating one for me, right? I go along to any kind of training course and you say to people, do you use Facebook anymore for your business? And they're like, no one uses Facebook anymore. That is not true at all. There are huge demographic groups. And demographics dangerous, maybe value graphic groups, but there are huge groups of people that is still their major platform. That's where they go all day, every day, and that's where they spend their time. And the problem is that the assumption is they are old and low income. It's not necessarily the case. In some situations, some places, that's the case. There are other things, like we tend to take a very UK, US centric view on a lot of this stuff as well, whereas channels like Telegram and stuff like that are absolutely huge, particularly in geopolitical things that are kind of going on at the moment where people are broadcasting out kind of content as well. So I wouldn't dismiss any of these. And then LinkedIn, let's get back to this. My LinkedIn is a joyous place, right? It is people sharing clever stuff that they've done, people celebrating what they've done, and sharing information with me that I probably wouldn't get. I mean, Twitter's the other place I would get it. Like, I want to find out what's going on with ChatGPT and latest insights. There are a number of people that I will follow in order to do that. So maybe by the fact that I've spent a bit of time sculpting my feed, and what they've been really clever at is I can be connected to you, but I don't need to follow you. That was the big game changer for me. It's like, right, I can just follow the people that give me relevant stuff. I still want to be connected to those other people. And actually, of all the platforms, that and Instagram are the nicest environments that I've seen, in that I'll post something and people want to celebrate it.
Yeah.
Like, we've won an award, or we're giving out an award, or we're whatever it is. And people are like, hey, brilliant. And those are the people that actually care.
Everything's meaningful. And I feel like, whereas you get a lot of Facebook with just aimless scrolling, that's not really something that you have on LinkedIn.
No, people are there to network and to learn. It does feel like that, and maybe to get a job, and maybe to advertise a job as well. But it does
definitely
to
try and pitch to be on the podcast.
Yeah,
that's why I'm
small problem. Okay, but that my email now has got to a joke. I reckon 30 a day now. And what's interesting is I always get them while I'm not in the office because they're coming a lot from the US. So I probably get 20 or 30 a night, 2 or 3 during the day. Most of it is agencies, I think, US-based agencies trying to get people onto the podcast. I get a lot of LinkedIn messages. The rule is, basically, if you send me a connection request, it's supposed to be best practice, send a note, say while you're connecting. When that note says, I'm connecting because I think I'd be great on your podcast, or I've got someone, I might actually consider that, whereas someone says, I've got someone that might be good on your podcast, 99 times out of 100, I'll ignore them.
Because my answer to that is always great. Put them in touch with me. I'll speak directly with them.
Yeah, right. And I had an interesting one where someone got in contact on behalf of someone, and I said, I work with this person all the time. If they want to be on the podcast, I'm not sure why they haven't mentioned it. And a very embarrassed conversation happened afterwards where this person was horrified that the agency had done this particular thing. So I think that's it. What's in it for me? Keep it real. And actually, just like with Instagram, if I post a picture of me winning something, it's only the people that actually like me that are going to celebrate that. Otherwise, you're like, stop showing off. It's just not interesting. Whereas if it's like, oh, cool, Daniel's on that thing. That's nice. Good for him. I'm really pleased for him. So I think that's the thing, is that you've got to manage that network in the appropriate way. There was this great guy called the LinkedIn guy, and his argument was that you should never connect to anyone unless they were phoned up, put through to someone else in your office, and they went, Daniel, it's Louise Crossley on the phone. And if you could say, oh, great, I'll speak to Louise. Whereas if you're like, who? Right? Then you shouldn't speak to them. I'm a little bit loose in that. I think there's different ways of managing it, but I think it is what's in it for them. And I just want to highlight something we're going to talk about in a news episode we're doing, but this was really important. We'll get into it in more detail then. Marketers are using less channels. And I was like, what? Basically, their marketing mix includes less channels as the time of this kind of report went out. We'll highlight it in the show notes. And what was really fascinating was that we've got fragmentation. We've got more and more social platforms. And people are basically saying, I know what works and I'm sticking to those platforms. I think that's good. I would argue that maybe you're missing out on something. But actually, if you had to say to me now, right, you're only allowed to use one social channel or two social channels for target internet, I'd go, right, LinkedIn. And then I'd go, Instagram, maybe, a bit of brand building. But, beyond that, I mean, I like Twitter, but I'm not seeing much business success from using it particularly. What about if you had just to pick, because you've got a real variety of clients, right? If you had to pick two channels, all the rest have to disappear. What are you going to pick?
Two. Varies from client to client.
You're only allowed two.
I'm only allowed two. It's really hard.
B2B and B2C clients.
Okay. Controversially, I would pick direct mail.
Direct mail is a channel. What about a social channel?
That is, it's a channel.
It's a channel. It's not a social media channel.
Well, do you know what?
You just don't want to pick a social media
channel. It could be
channel.
more social than a lot of the stuff I see happening on so-called social channels.
Kieran, you have to pick two social media channels.
All right. It's going to have to be Instagram and probably LinkedIn.
Okay.
But I now feel slightly sick.
Okay.
I might have to go for a lay down. Can't believe I said that.
Been sick in your mouth.
Yeah.
You feel dirty.
I do feel dirty.
Yes, there you have it. Kieran loves Instagram and LinkedIn.
No,
you heard it here first. He prefers it to direct mail.
You forced me.
That's what we're going to title.
That's like coercion.
Coercive control onto Kieran over social media. If you had to pick two for business, I mean, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'd probably say the same. Yeah. Instagram mainly just to hit the sort of younger audience.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a big audience that are students and are learning about digital marketing, and we've got our own, the people that have come through our academy and all those kind of things as well, and we're socially with them there.
However, after what you've said today, I want to go on a whole new exploration of X.
Yeah, I think
because
you get it right.
Well, do you know what? I think if you've got a network that's actually cracking down on the fake accounts and actually focusing on actual active users, which they seem to be making a lot of moves to do that. Like, I would far rather be in a network of 50 genuine people who are actually engaged than a network of like 2 billion people that aren't.
I'm trying to work out the
half
solution.
Of which are bots or, whatever the situation is that for me. And actually, I think that's a space to watch. So here's the thing with social media. You constantly have to be looking at
that's a valid point.
The changing landscape because it shifts real quick. So like, right. And I always say this to people like, okay, so you're B2B and you love LinkedIn. How much percentage of your business comes via LinkedIn at the moment? And, anything above 30%, I'm like, mate, that's a risk. What happens if LinkedIn goes belly up next month, or suddenly everybody leaves the platform because something we're horrified by the way an exec behaved, or all sorts of things can happen that can shift the landscape. We found this with our LinkedIn user group, didn't we, for the podcast? Literally, they changed the rules on how it works, and suddenly we weren't able to contact people that were part of that.
Well, interesting. They've just given us something else that we're now able to make our LinkedIn group public.
Okay.
Which means no one can comment, but people can see it, and we're going to play around with that, see if that makes difference as well. I mean, that's a very good point. It does shift and change. Right. On that note, how much do you and your team know about all this stuff? And I say that because we did the skills benchmark recently, again, the digital marketing skills benchmark, but we also, for the first time ever, did confidence versus skills as well. This was shocking. So we basically said, how do you score yourself out of 10 for each of these topic areas, social media, content, analytics, and then answer a load of difficult questions and find out. The disparity, the three ones that stood out, social media, content marketing, and analytics, we are way more confident than we should be of our knowledge in those areas, which explains bad social media, bad content, not measuring it. Okay. So targetinternet.com/benchmark. Go and benchmark yourself for free or your team for free. It's all automated now. You can go in, it will give you a link to share with your team. and see what they actually know and what you actually know compared to what we think we do. Because I think that's the key thing, is actually we know how to use these platforms doesn't mean we necessarily know everything that we should know about them. So definitely worth taking a look at. As ever, all of the links and the references will be in the show notes.
Before we end as well, I have an important question which some of our younger audience might find funny or interesting, but just whilst we're talking about social media, for each of you, which is, how often do you both think about the Roman Empire?
Oh, for me, at least 3 times a month.
3 times a month?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
I'm a bit obsessed with Romans. As a child, I used to run around with a Roman helmet on my head.
But even so, you just...
And very little else.
You wouldn't expect that.
Yeah.
Couple of times a month for me. Something will come up that refers me back to it. I think living in Jersey as well, there's a big connection to it here. What would be your answer?
Never.
Yeah, right.
Never.
It's just because basically this was going viral on TikTok.
Yeah.
And it was women discovering how often men actually think about the Roman Empire.
Well,
and it was just baffling to
So amazing was my daughter, for those that know, is like 22 years old, and we were having the same conversation, right? And she basically said to her boyfriend, "How many times do you think?" And he was like, 3 or 4 times a day.
Wow, that's fairly Roman.
He's quite into his history. He's a bit of he's into his history kind of stuff as well. So Luke, interesting. Okay. So yeah, it's but this is the thing, right? It's
just testimony to the ripples in time that the Romans created.
It is. There you go. What an interesting point to finish on. I think there's also a thing here about memes, understanding of those, comedy, language, all those kind of things as well, which is that I'll say to maybe one of my students in Imperial College, "Have you seen this meme?" And they're like, "Yeah, you saw that on Reels, didn't you? Because that was about 3 months ago on TikTok, right?" And that's the big criticism, is like anything on Reels was on TikTok a while back as well. Yeah. So it does start to separate user base and that kind of thing. And actually, quite often, and I found this with Twitter at the beginning, and maybe with Instagram, people don't get it and therefore they dismiss it, right? And TikTok is the easiest one to do that. It's just stupid people dancing. The reality is that actually there's a lot more to it. And I think sometimes we need to deep dive. And your point of going back to X to look at that, I think was a very good one. So keep an open mind, explore, keep up to date. Tell us what you think, targetinternet.com/newsletter, because I want you to subscribe to the newsletter, because we've got some live sessions coming up about this stuff as well, and they get exclusive access on there. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you again on the Digital Marketing Podcast.
Please subscribe for more videos like this and visit targetinternet.com for more free digital marketing resources.